Hello, you're very welcome along to this episode of the Live Wild podcast with me, your host, Hilary Rose. Today, I get to talk to PJ Gallagher. PJ is one of Ireland's best loved comics, and of course, he's a cast member on The Young Offenders. We talk about him becoming a parent at the age of 48, growing up in his childhood home, which was also a boarding house for mental health outpatients, his own mental health breakdown, modern comedy, his polyamorous lifestyle, and so much more.
I was at a vegetable shop in Marino when a woman says, "Can I speak to you outside?" So I kind of know where it was going because this is happening quite frequently now. And she's like, "I'm supposed to go to St. Pat's, but I was really scared." Like, don't be scared. Be scared of sitting at home with depression and doing nothing about it. Be scared of having anxiety building up and not sharing it. Be scared of those things, but don't be afraid of going to hospital. Like, whatever you take it in, I promise you, it's not that. I promise you, you're going to go in and meet friends. You're going to have people caring for you, genuinely really caring for you. So it's the last thing in the world you should be afraid of.
PJ is so honest about his life, his career and his family. I just love spending time with him. I love chatting with him, and I've got to do lots of it on the set of The Young Offenders, so I'm very blessed. PJ and I discuss some serious topics about shame, lies, addiction and mental health. If any of these issues have affected you or someone you love, please don't suffer in silence. Reach out to a healthcare professional or someone you trust. We have some links in the show notes that may be of help if you're not sure where to start. Apart from that, it's loads of fun. I hope you enjoy the show. PJ Gallagher, thank you so much for joining me on the Live Wild podcast this morning. Coming live from the jungle, it looks like.
Yeah, I know. I should have been better prepared, but I've got greenery and boxes of Christmas presents that I've wrapped. I've managed, even though there's nobody in the house but myself, which is kind of unusual because we literally doubled in numbers overnight. I've managed to use and badly utilize more space since they left than ever before. So I haven't really figured out what I'm doing wrong. But there's literally shit everywhere since I've been left on my own. So I'm trying to fit this podcast and my screen in amongst shoes and plants and headphones and phones and everything else. Yeah.
The joys of it, the joys of working parenthood, huh? And so congratulations, you have 2 new babies in your life now, which is amazing.
Yeah. Mad, isn't it? Yeah.
Amazing.
It's kind of hard to believe because I never, ever thought I would have kids. Especially, it's like I didn't start till I was 48. Who does that? That's psychopathic sort of stuff. That's masochism of the highest order. But there you go, it's happened.
Masochism for yourself. How why did you think you'd never have kids?
I suppose I always kind of actually planned probably against it, I never thought it would be something I would do. I was kind of spent most of my life trying to run away from families, to be honest. So then I don't know, things got me and Kelly got together and things just started to look different. And then she was always so keen, I suppose, as well. So, I don't know. And then it happened, then we were literally doing everything we could. Oh, we weren't doing anything to prevent it. And then there we are. So here we are. It is what it is. And then 2 come along at once. And just kind of hilarious. Kelly's a twin herself. So she has experience of what it's like to live that. And she always plans to be a ma and definitely to have more than 1 kid. And I'm just kind of winging it. So I'm probably the biggest liability in the whole situation. To be honest, I think that's not true.
I love it. And I love that 2 come along at once. It just feels like, 1 pregnancy, you've got your family. And you told me as well, and I hope it's okay to say this, that you were going to get the snip very shortly.
I got it done 2 weeks after. So it's still, I got decommissioned literally 2 weeks almost to the day after they were born. And I actually tried to do it beforehand a few times.
That's right.
I went to a doctor at 27 and said, I want to get it done. And they said, no way, you're in your 20s. I have to do an interview and everything. And they said, no, I wouldn't do it. It would be unethical or whatever. And then I went at 37. Again, they wouldn't do it.
Wow.
And I went to 47, which is the year before the kids were born.
Yeah.
I went to do it again. And they said, oh, yeah, we'll do it. And I never did it. And no. And then they were born. And then I did it. So,
amazing. It's serendipitous, and you have to thank those doctors along the way that that talked you out of it or just point blank refused to do it?
Yeah.
Well, Kelly will thank the doctors if you don't.
Anyway, thank the doctors. I'll thank the doctors too. I mean, now that I'm in it, but it kind of is gas. Like, if I had my way a few times, it wouldn't have happened,
Yeah.
which would have been fine as well.
Yeah.
But like, it's just a different life now. It really is a different life now. Holy shit! Like, oh my god! Like, I'm just worried about all different stuff, Well, like, I know you say I'm worried about different stuff. I'm not really. I'm like Kelly was worried about education and health, and I'm worried they won't like motorbikes and football. So like, it's a different sort of perspective.
Yeah, it's funny when kids come along, they have just that it opens up this avenue of like you're carefree, beforehand, and then it opens up this avenue of oh my god, I've got these million other things to think about and to worry about besides what's happening on the ground right now. Like literally, I need to feed them, change them. It's just like this level of functioning that I didn't think I ever had before.
Jesus, isn't it just like. And my only practice was with dogs, like, which is not the same.
It's not quite, but it's
out in the garden to have a shite. I've noticed, there's certain things you have to learn.
Yeah. I mean, it's okay to let them do that too. I remember finding my daughter, she was out in the garden, she was a toddler, and there was a little hedge that she used to disappear around. And I was sitting in the sun, and then I was like, she's gone behind that hedge again. And I can't see her, so she's a toddler, I need to go find her. Found her, and she had a snail in her hand and half it in her mouth.
In her mouth? Amazing.
Yeah. Green goo, the whole lot.
Fantastic.
He was just chowing down on it. So. But they feed themselves, that's the other thing. She's quite
That's a good sign, yeah. She's resourceful as well, I take.
Very resourceful child. She is indeed. Another congratulations is due, PJ, on your book.
Yeah, thanks a million. Yeah, I can't believe it's real, to be honest, Like, it was, because it was such a weird, it was a long time in the making because I abandoned ship on it and everything, and I don't know, and now it's doing well. I mean, as we're chatting, it's still number 4 in Ireland in the non-fiction, which I can't believe that anyone would care enough, just weird, because you spend so much time, like, writing a book is such a great exercise in finding out how little you have to say to the world, I think.
100%.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you sit down and you go, oh my God, how am I going to fit this all in? And then you write for a day. Like, the first day I went, that's it. That's empty covered now. I'm done. I'm finished. Like, what am I going to do? And then you realize you have to sort of, delve a little bit deeper and try to get your timelines right and all of that sort of stuff. And I started writing this as a play that was called Madhouse. You went to see it actually in the Everyman, and we wrote that play, and the play went very well actually.
It was brilliant.
And we were delighted with how the play was received and everything. And then I thought we'll write a book on it, because there's so much stuff in the book that I wanted to do as part of stand up over the years, but it would never work as stand up. It just was the wrong place for it. And, one of the stories I'm telling is that, like, for stand-up, something has to be relatable. Like, if I, like, stand-up goes, I was walking down the street the other day, or I was driving the other day, and I saw this guy, and he had a big red hat, whatever. Then you immediately picture yourself in these circumstances. You can, it becomes your own real life if the picture is told well. And I would say these stories from the book Madhouse, like, when you come downstairs and there's a guy standing there and he thinks there's a dog in his belly, people didn't know what I was talking about. And it just didn't work in that environment. It really didn't. It fell flat. So a play felt like the right place to do it, and it was. But the book was like, whereas, okay, I'm going to tell all of this in the book. I'm really into it. I have much more fun with it. And then as I was writing the book, I had a proper full-on mental breakdown and ended up in St. Pat's in the hospital now, and I had to abandon the whole project, like literally everything. I couldn't do anything,
Yeah, of course.
And I came out of the hospital and then rang Penguin, and I was like, I don't suppose you're still interested in publishing this book, to which apparently more chapters and new information is a good thing. So it's like almost a lucky breakdown as far as publishing is concerned. Because what's happening now is like half the book is before breakdown, and the other half is after breakdown. It's kind of gone that way, and that wasn't the plan at all.
Yeah, of course not. Yeah. But it just seems to have landed at the right time of your life. And I love, you talk about your mum in this as well, and the difference between what you put in the play and how she's portrayed in the play, and then the honesty that is afforded to you in the book since her passing. Why was it important for you to really share? Because when I read it, the first thing that struck me was the language in the book. It's really refreshing. It's really simple. It's really beautiful. It's really honest, very funny and very poignant. It's all of those things. It just feels very naturally written. And so why was it important for you to be really honest in the book, as opposed to maybe a stage play where it's a kind of a heightened storyline almost?
Yeah, well, it's probably a long answer, but the truthful answer is, I did the play and I was still hiding a lot of lies about mental illness in our family, you know, right up to after the play was staged and everything, you know. So I mentioned all the mental illness and mental problems that people who lived in our house had, but I didn't mention any of my own, and I didn't mention any of my mother's or my father's. It was suggested as far as the alcoholism was concerned, but I didn't go into it at all. And then I got proper sick and ended up in St. Pat's and came to, and I just looked at the play and looked at the source material, looked at the book that I was writing up until that point, and went, I'm still fucking lying about mental illness. I'm still covering it up. I'm still, even though I've been on the Late Late Show, even though I've been out there, like, you know, I didn't mean to become a mental illness campaigner, but I was doing all of that, and then I was still covering up that, no, I was raised by people who had mental illnesses. You know, as far as alcoholism and addiction is concerned, I did have my own mental problems back then when I was a teenager. And so why am I still covering it up? Secrets and lies were the reason we all got so sick. It's the reason that killed me dad. You know, he died of his addictions. And I suppose I never equated. You can just tell the story honestly and like talking about someone's mental problems and their addiction problems and everything doesn't take away from being a wonderful person.
Absolutely.
And that's what really has to be said, I think, to make people come out, because people say, I'm sick, or my brother's sick, or my sister's sick, or my best friend's sick, and it's all whispered because they think it's taking that person down or saying something that person's lesser because of it. And it became important to me to just say, no, this is the absolute truth, and everybody still did the best they could, and most of them did really, really well. It's just a pity we didn't address these things before it was too late, because it was for a lot, you know, from my ma, from my dad, definitely, it really is too late, and very nearly for me, it was too late. You know, so I just realized if I was going to write the book, I have to be really, really, really honest about it. Or else I'd be like, I couldn't sell it. Like, I couldn't sit here with you now and say, oh, this book, buy it. It's all this story, and knowing that a lot of the source material would just be a cover up of stuff I didn't want to talk about. I just couldn't.
Yeah, I love it.
Do it, you know?
And it's how amazing is it to come to that place in your life where you can shed all of it happily and talk about it and not feel shame about any of it, because there's nothing to feel shame about. You know what I mean?
Oh, yes.
And
it's throwing down chains. Like, it really is. You don't even realize you're carrying these chains until they're on, you know? You really don't. It really is very liberating. It really is. Like, you know? Yeah, and I say it's so easy now. That's something I've noticed with other people who recover as well. It's like, once you start talking, there is a period where you don't shut up a little bit, which is fine. It's part of your recovery. I know
it's spilling. Yeah.
But you know, like, you get excessive. Like, there was points I was walking into the Spar for a chicken roll, and your man would say, "So how are you getting on?" You know, not even expecting an answer. Like, oh, I'm just out of the mental hospital, and then nobody knows what to say. So it was like, I kind of had to ride that little one as well, because, you know, I was so happy to be alive, you know.
Yeah.
Not just feeling good, and not just not sick, but just so happy to just be alive, you know. Like, to the point I thought I was having a manic episode. I went back to the doctor again and says, listen, I think I'm in trouble here, you know. Like, Elaine, my ex, she says, I think, I haven't seen you like this before. Just get it checked. And I went in, and there's like a whole load of questions and a sort of thing you go through where he's asked, you're asked certain things like, are you spending lots of money? Are you gambling? Are you doing anything excessively? Are you, you know, and none of those things tick the box. And he was like, no, you're
just joyful.
You just enjoy it, you know. You just haven't done it in so long, you've forgotten what it feels like.
God. Yeah, but it's true. It's true. And like you said, it can be buried under so much. And you talk about your mum and how, you know, what a wonderful person she was as well, which is really important to say. And also,
And she deserved a happier life because she was such a great person, and she didn't really get that in the end, you know. And that is the thing. She really deserved a happier life, you know, the way she looked after everyone in spite of it all and put everyone else first. I mean, it's an incredible sacrifice, and she was an amazing person. But, you know, because these things didn't go addressed, you know, she didn't really hit her full potential, I don't think. And that's sad, you know. So, you know, you do deserve to, everybody deserves to sort of be able to talk about themselves and, like it says, throw the chains off, you know.
Yeah, and not be judged for it either. And I suppose at the time, it was a very different time, PJ, in Ireland, when your mum was younger and going through what she was going through. Like, it was a totally different Ireland, you know, so there wasn't...
She was born in the 30s, like, you know, like it was a totally different world, and like Catholic, or like you felt terrible, or
you felt terrible for being alive.
But you know, being alive.
Do you know, you're born with original sin. This is what gets me, you know. So immediately you're born, you're a sinner. So you feel terrible for being alive from the get-go. You know?
Exactly. Like, and then, like, especially if you're like, I mean, as hard as it was for men to reach their potential in Catholic Ireland, you know, women just were told they didn't really have any. So, you know, if you're someone who had all the talent that she had and had the abilities she had and all that, you go to say I'm in trouble or I want to talk to someone, you were sent to the priest, you know, who told you, oh, play hard or at home or whatever. You know, like, be a good family person. You don't fucking want to be, you know. And it's no wonder you end up drinking wine out of the Hoover or whatever it is you end up doing. Like, you know, life is difficult. It's so hard, and
it's hard, and people were shoved into structures that weren't healthy, you know, and told to do their family duty when those structures weren't healthy for them. You know, there was no support otherwise.
So like you said, it was a different world, like a different planet. Like, even when I think about, I was born in the 70s, and like Kelly, who my partner, she was born in 89, and like she was born in the US and I was born in Ireland. And when we talk about our children's past and childhoods, there's no correlation, like none. You know, we have TV programs in common, and everything else is like, she to me, she grew up in a future that hasn't even happened yet. Do you know what I mean? Like, and I'm talking about stuff, and she just thinks that, I mean, it's like I told her I grew up in the famine, you know, like everything was black and white when I grew up. Yeah, so it's like the world changes so fast, and I guess so it's really hard to. So I guess a lot of people, and you know, there was no such thing as mental illness. This is one thing I said in the play. Like, back then, there was no such thing as mental health. Anyway, you were either mentally at health. That was it, and you know, if you were sick, they didn't even say you were sick, or they never said you were depressed or you had anxiety problems. Those things didn't exist. It was like, oh, your uncle's after taken to the bed, or
her nerves were bad. Yeah, her nerves were
trouble with his nerves, or trouble with her nerves. And these are just, you know,
which is literally what it is, though. Is your nervous system is shot to bits. I mean, like, but there was no care around it. It was just like, right, well, they're going off for a bit now, and hopefully they'll come back okay.
And it's such a taming of such a serious problem, you know. Just a bit of trouble with his nerves. There's just been in bed for 6 months, no big deal. You know, like, so I guess there was nowhere to go. Physically as well. Jesus, I look at pictures of my uncle in his 20s and he looked in his 50s. So 28 years old with a comb over, wearing a full suit on the beach with a cigarette. You start thinking, like, it was, you know, different planet. Like, you're right.
Different time, and probably aged before his time, whatever he had been through as well, you know. Yeah. You talk about your sister Stacey as well in the book, and you say that you've gotten even closer since your mum passed, which I think is lovely, because I found as well that your family dynamic, and it's something I never expected either, it reshapes when you lose a parent. Like, the whole structure of it kind of reshapes, you know. How did that work for you and Stacey?
Honestly, me and Stacey didn't really know each other growing up at all. We're only kind of getting to know each other properly now, I think, you know. Wow. Because, like, the whole focus growing up in our house, you know, with 6, like, just in case someone doesn't know, like, our house there was the Eastern Health Board ran an experiment called boarding out. So there were 6 men with schizophrenia that lived in our home on one side of the house. Then there was me ma and dad, who were, like, you know, had bad alcohol problems, and then there was the dog, who was probably the sanest of the whole lot of us, and me and my sister. So our focus as kids was just get out of the house, just do not be in the house. So everything that was in the house was kind of negative. So I was that little bit older as well, so I always think it was a little bit harder for my sister. I could leave early, and and I do mean early, like when, this is when you were 10 and you were able to cycle into town and stuff.
Yeah.
There was no such thing as play dates or anything. Like, now you're not allowed out. But when I was young, you weren't allowed in.
Yeah. Same. It was like, get out. Get out.
Get out from under my feet. You know where to be. Like, go somewhere, do something, you'd be out all day. You'd like cycle 20 kilometers in the BMX and come back up and get a chase off an old man with a hammer and call him a normal guy.
And you never told them a word. And I used to come back starving at 11 o'clock at night.
Yeah, starving.
Starving all day. Yeah.
And all you cared about was getting back before the streetlights came on. It was as if you had a deal with people who would kidnap children that if the lights are off, don't touch them. If the lights are on, fair game.
Yeah.
So I was always out of the house, and that never changed. Through my teenage years, and then I left school at 16. I was working then full time at 16, so I was never in the house. So me and my sister really didn't get much of a chance to know each other until my mom died.
Yeah, and it's bizarre if you think about that, because somebody else would think about it. It's your sister, your sibling. You grew up in the same house, but like you said, you were never there. And if you were there, you were probably, absent in some way or trying to survive. Essentially, you're trying to
lock myself in a room, or put the headphones on and listen to heavy metal music or whatever it was, or punk music or whatever I was into at the time, and just not associate as little as possible. So I really didn't know much about her life until quite recently, and I guess, and the kids are, of course, bringing us together now. We talk a lot more because she's 3 kids and she's she's a functional adult. So, like, there's a well of advice I need to sort of get to. She's also had a very successful relationship for a very long time, which is something I've yet to pull off. So we'll see. We'll see how we get on. Although I think she finds the idea that she is the sort of, functional adult is kind of scary as well,
Yeah, or a lot of pressure. There's a lot of pressure on her.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you talk about your relationship, and you and I have talked about this on set as well. And like, I've met Kelly. She's so gorgeous and so wonderful, and you guys are really lucky to have each other. Now you're babies together. And and you speak and spoke openly about this, about being in a polyamorous relationship.
Yeah.
And I remember, like, and it's so funny because we talked about it on set, and I was like, "Can I ask questions, PJ?" And you said, "Yes, you can." And I asked questions, and then you answered. Yeah, and then I'd walk away and I'd have a think about it, and then I come back. But PJ, can I ask another question? You'd laugh and say, "Everyone comes back with more questions." How do you? I mean, first of all, how do you explain it? Like what it is.
Yeah, I mean, how do I explain it? Yeah, I guess like polyamory is fundamentally, it's the belief that you can love more than one person at the same time. That's fundamentally it. That's kind of it, but like in practice, I suppose that blows a lot of people's minds, because people automatically sort of tend to make that about sex, or they think you're a swinger or something, which just isn't the case. I mean, most people I know in monogamous relationships don't have sex with each other anymore. So I'd like to know, so let's be honest, if there's more to go around, there's probably less of that happening. Like, so it's really nothing to do with that, like far from it, but it's just, I think it's very much in the same way that I have twins now. I really don't feel like I have to take love off one to give it to another. It's just, it's an infinite sort of source. And, and I guess the more I look into it, and this is one of the reasons I'm doing my ADHD assessment later this year, is a lot of people who are neurodivergent just don't get the sort of standard nuclear family. This is the dynamic, and it cannot be moved from it. That's the way it is.
Interesting,
That they just see that world that has different structures to it. And it really isn't. Like, a lot of people I know who are polyamorous that I've spoken to they're kind of, there's some people who are completely asexual. They have no interest in sex at all. They just want that intimacy with people, They want to be able to go and stay in their friend's house and, like, go on holidays with them and share a bed and not do anything. Just have these things that are they're just not there in monogamous relationships a lot of the time. It doesn't mean you live in a jealous free zone. That's far from that. That's not the truth either. Like,
that's what I wondered about as well. I think I'd struggle with that bit. Yeah.
Yeah. And I guess that's the thing. Well, like, people who are absolutely monogamous, it's not for you. It's not for you. And probably, if you know that, then it wouldn't be a good idea to even experiment. Stick to what you're comfortable with is the main thing. But like, but like, I guess my jealousies are different. So I think I was saying to you, like, the last time I got jealous was when Kelly came home and she had a McDonald's and told me she wasn't getting one. She didn't tell me she was getting one. So I was like, what fuck? I would have fucking like that. So, so it's like, so the
Thought about
world is the world.
perspective.
Like this thing is, it's really not a very exciting lifestyle. It's like any other lifestyle. It just is what it is, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
And and I guess the main thing and the most important thing is like they call it ENM, you know, ethical non-monogamy. Like you have to be and practice being honest and open all the time. That's the whole thing, you know. And it's gas that I'm talking about this now because I've never been more monogamous. Like I literally, like, there's no time to do anything, you know, with babies or see anyone or even hang around with my friends, you know. And that's one of the questions people ask you, like, where do you get the time? How can you be where do you get the time? It's like, well, like, where does anyone get the time? You know, you get to hang out with your partner, and then every so often you meet your friends, and then you get to spend time with your kids, or you go and you do a hobby, or you do a yoga class, you do a gym. It's like I probably do less than you know.
Yeah, because that's what I was like. Where does anyone get the time to have more than one loving relationship? You know, without like obviously with kids and busy life and everything else. I was like, my God, if people are managing this, hats off.
I think I don't think that very many people only have one loving relationship. It's just their partner, you know. Like people do have, you know, they
loving
love
friendships.
They love their family. They get very close. I mean, I guess that's what it is. It's kind of, for me, there's a friend and partner. There's an overlap there. And I've never really known where that really is. And like that, some people go, oh, they have sex with your partner. No, well, you don't always. I mean, not everybody does. Not everybody can. It doesn't mean those people can't have partners in life or can't have people that are intimate with or can't have people that they, you know, share everything with or confide in or, you know, and that's not just friendship either. To me, it's not just friendship. Maybe it is to other people, but not by my definition. So and then I met someone called Severin Starger is the name she goes by, which is, I think, hilarious. But she was like, she had kind of explained this to me, which is that's what's in the book about it. And it just made sense to me. Just like for the first time ever, I kind of felt like I was reading about myself, if you know what I mean.
Interesting.
And it just made a lot of sense. And it's like anything else. It's when as soon as you know what you're at, the desire to go and do these things actually diminishes, you know.
Yeah, interesting.
And the only thing that annoys me about it is when people think, you know, people go, well, people go, sure, aren't they? So isn't everyone polyamorous if they're left? Not really. Like, that just means you just want to cheat, I think. And that's the thing, you have to be honest. It's the honesty that's the most important part. You know, it really is. That's the most important part. You have to be able to say pretty much everything. And if you don't think you can, it's not for you.
Yeah, you know, and like apply that to every other relationship. Honesty is the only thing that matters in every relationship, be it a friendship or a partnership or even a working relationship you know, whatever. I always believe, you know,
Secrets and Lies nearly tore my life apart. Secrets and Lies got me into St. Pat's. Secrets and Lies killed my dad. Secrets and Lies and Cloak and Dagger and not telling the truth is the reason my ma probably never got better. You know, secrets and lies and bullshit is why me and my sister don't get to know each other very well. So, and it's still my default to hide things because I always think I'm going to say something and someone's going to, you know, react badly or the worst thing is going to happen. That's still my default position, is to hide how I feel about things. So I have to work on it, you know. I have to work constantly and just say, a lot of the times I'll like say something and almost immediately now go, I don't know why I said that. I'm absolutely lying. Here's the truth. I've said, you know, it's a practice.
Yeah.
It's a practice that you have to get into. But again, like being honest about mental health and all that, it's like, you know, it's throwing down shame. Like, you feel free to be myself. You know, I'm not afraid of people knowing who I am anymore. I don't care. It's like, I don't think anybody else cares. So, you know, it's just that. It took years, but it took actually honestly wanting to throw life away to get there. But here we are.
Yeah, and thankfully we're here. We are having this chat, and it's great. It's great though, you know. And
I've never had a normal family unit either, so that's why I really do believe in the concept of chosen family. You know, so I want to build a family now where
On your
I feel
terms, what you want,
on
what
my
you,
terms.
yeah.
And that's a big thing for me. I want to be able to see somebody as family rather than,
Yeah.
like I look at Stephanie Preisler is my best friend, but I don't just see her as my best friend anymore. Like she literally saved my life one day.
Wow.
So we're not in a relationship, that's not that, that's her, like she has her own life, her own partner, her own kid, all that, but I don't feel like she's just friends to me either. She feels like she's my sister or something.
And it's beautiful that you can have people like that in your life, and it's important. Like you said, she saved your life, so it's so important.
Yeah. And genuinely saved my life, like that was on the day I woke up and I said to myself, I won't see the end of this day. Like that happened, I woke up and genuinely thought, this is it, it's over. And I remember feeling quite a bit lighter about it because finally there was a finish line. I knew what I was going to do and I knew how I was going to do it, how to go about it and everything. And it was 4 o'clock in the morning and I look at my phone and there was a message from Stephanie, and instead of doing what I was going to do, I called her. So
wow.
I ended up in her, well, not in her house, but in our car, and we were sitting there and we spent the morning together, and that was kind of the beginning of everything start to change and the beginning of accepting about going to hospital and everything. So she literally saved me life.
Wow.
On the day. So I mean, I've an attachment to her that's doesn't feel like we're just mates.
No, it could never be broken. No, it's incredible. It's incredible. Yeah. And I love, because we spoke about this before as well. You talked about being on the Late Late Show and the interview that you gave, and you said you wanted to kind of get ahead of the talk or the chatter, about what had happened to you. You wanted to take, the bull by the horns and control it, and then all of a sudden it just blew up into something you couldn't have never imagined. That must have been a lot of pressure as well at that time when you had recovered and probably still recovering, and then to have a lot of public pressure, even though it was positive, it was a positive outpouring, but it's still nonetheless pressure. Hey, if you're enjoying this episode and you'd like to show your support, if you like, you can buy us a coffee using the Buy Me a Coffee app or online at buymeacoffee.com/livewildpodcast, or just click the link in our show notes, it will take you there. Alternatively, you can also donate crypto to the show using the BitDonate app or at bitdonate.com and search for Live Wild, or just follow the link in the show notes. Either or both those donations really help us make the best show possible. And as always, you can like, subscribe, and share the show with your mates or on social media. Thank you so much for your help.
Yeah, it was huge. It was big pressure. And, when I think about it at the time, my motivation at the time was kind of still quite selfish. And I was still like,
That's okay.
I mean, the only reason I did it, honestly, went on the Late Late and told the story and did the podcast with Jim, was because I honestly thought I'd say it once and I'd never have to talk about it again. Like that genuinely was in my head, genuinely. That's why I started at the Late Late. I thought, I'm just going to, if you do the Late Late, you'll do that, it'll be in all the papers, everyone read about it, and then life will move on. I'll never have to talk about mental illness and ever again. It'll be done. And I only did it because I disappeared off the face of the earth completely and utterly for 3 months and never said a word to anyone. And all of that time I was just obsessed with the lie. Like, it wasn't even getting better. Like, getting better was number 2. Number 1 was no one can find out. No one can find out. That was it. That was the thing I was obsessed with. No one can find out I'm in St. Pat's. No one can find out I was sick. No one is allowed to know why I was off the radio. No one is allowed to know what's going on. Everyone had to, and I had a whole team of people just lying for me. I was making liars out of people, making liars out of my sister, out of my ma, and my partner, making liars out of the people I worked with, making a liar out of Jim, making a liar out of our producer Clint, making liars, just creating lies, to the point that it was so obvious everyone was lying. So it kind of felt like, I'm going to just do this. I'm going to make sure no one has to tell any lies anymore, and I'll do this in the Late Late, and I'll never want to talk about it again. So it was actually a very selfish thing. I had people say, "Oh, fair play to you," and it was genuinely, the motivation was all wrong. It was, it was all wrong. But I did it, and then I remember, and I do remember just feeling relief immediately after it was done, because I went for a pint, and I was sitting there with Kelly, and I was sitting there with Clint, and we had a pint in the pub, and I thought, it's done, no big deal, whatever. And Then the next 4 days, it was the front page of all the newspapers, except for the Irish Times, which I was joking about. I was saying, I remember making a joke at the time saying that if I shot someone, I wouldn't get into the Irish Times. And then as soon as the book came out, they were the only people that gave me the nicest review. They were the first people to give me a review that was really, really good. So I feel bad about saying it now.
That's great.
And it was 4 days on the front pages, like 4 days. And it hit Friday, the Saturday, it was like front page of all the papers. Then there was the Sunday papers, it was front page of them. And then there was like the columns on the Monday, and it went into the following weekends. I was like, this is crazy. And my Instagram blew up. And not just blew up, but like, well done later stuff. There was people telling me their problems and asking what they're going to do and what's going to happen next. And, it was really, really overwhelming there. And I was like, got to stop reading them. Like that's what it says on my Insta now. I don't read DMs. I don't read them anymore. So you got to stop because you can't do. And that was kind of why I said, right, I'm not going to stop talking now, because if your first port of call when you're feeling like you're going to harm yourself or something is your local comedian, the system's broken. Like that's I shouldn't be the person. Like I'm not qualified. I can't help. I can't do anything. So I've kept talking about it since then. And I think I kind of have to. I won't keep doing it. I'm going to do a documentary about it. It's going to come out next year. It's coming out on RT next year. And I think that'll be the end of it then. Because
it's a chapter in your life. You're kind of,
Yeah. And I remember chatting to Dom, Young Offenders Dom, and him saying at some point you just have to get on with living your life. And he's right. Like at some point I got to put all this down as a story and like look forward to the kids and Kelly and whatever is coming next. And I'm not a professional. I don't make my living with this. The book is out. I've told my story and I'll tell it for a little while longer, and then I'll just let the proper people take it over. I don't want to go live my life, not keep thinking about it all the time.
Yeah, but it is a chapter in your story. I think that's what's really, really important to kind of emphasize here, is that what you talk about is your experience and your story, and everyone else's is going to be so different as well. So if they do need help, that they should seek it from a professional, like you said. But it's amazing that you've talked about it and that you continue to do so. And, it is heartbreaking and poignant in so many places, but it's really beautifully humorous in other places as well. You talked about playing golf when you're in St. Pat's.
Oh, yeah. You're not allowed to call it crazy golf, which I think is hilarious. Yeah. It has to be called mini golf. You're not allowed to say crazy golf, which I think and that's the funniest thing, this is the stuff about, it's its own micro universe in the mental health, And I think that's one thing I wanted to get across more than anything. Like, I know it's really hard. You have to be very privileged to have access to the hospitals anyway. Like, that's a fact, and that's wrong. But then people who can get in, like myself, you still resist it. You think you don't know what you're going into. You think you've watched too much American bullshit on TV.
Yeah, of course.
One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, and people in straitjackets and evil nurses overdosing people and all this shit. And you don't realize that when you get in there, it's kind of like a retreat. Like, it's actually a nice place to be. Like, the worst thing that happens is someone says, don't call it crazy golf. That's it. Like, it's kind of funny. Lego politics is a huge thing in the mental hospital, believe it or not. Lego politics.
Why?
People who are good at Lego get these Lego sets. The hospital will buy them, and then every so often someone comes in who's a newbie and doesn't understand. You're not supposed to take it apart and start again. Like, that's someone's hard work. Leave the Lego alone, motherfucker. Bring it, get a new set. Don't take someone else's work apart. That's a big deal,
Okay, good.
And bingo, you got to play bingo, and you'll get into bingo. I remember going in, and I was like, I talked to this woman that was in there who became a really good friend of mine. We're still great mates. And I went there and I was feeling so depressed and so bad. I thought I'd never laugh again, or I'd never be happy again. I do remember feeling like, what am I going to do? I'm never going to feel good again. And I was playing bingo, and she said, one day you'll win a face cloth in here and you'll think it was the best day of your life. And she was right. I won a packet of Swiss rolls and a face cloth, and I had the best night, like the best night.
So brilliant.
And that's the stuff you'll never hear about what a mental hospital is actually like. It's sitting around all day and having good chats with really good people that you're going to be friends with for the rest of your life, and getting out and going for walks and doing yoga if that's your thing, and playing bingo, or it's hard to leave. It's such a protected, nice place to be. It's actually hard to leave. I didn't want to leave. I know that sounds crazy, but I didn't want to leave. And also, I'd love to go in for a couple of weeks every year. I'm
Check
not
back
fit
in
and it
with
would take a
yourself.
space off someone else, but I
Yeah,
would
of
love to
course.
do it.
Yeah. Check back in with yourself and carve out that time for yourself. That's really important for everybody. Yeah.
It really is, to be able to just cut the one, because you think, I'm not going to look at my phone, or I'm not going to, you know, hang out with someone, or I'm not going to see someone, not going to walk. You think the whole world's going to fall apart. After 2 weeks in there, the world is just moving on randomly. It works. It just works.
Good. And that's a positive thing. And like you said, for anyone listening who's struggling and may think that they need, help in that respect, that, you paint a really positive picture.
Yeah, don't be afraid of the hospital. Be afraid of your illness. That's something I've learned. Don't be afraid of the hospital. Really, I was at a vegetable shop in Marino when a woman says, "Can I speak to you outside?" So I kind of know where it was going, because this is happening quite frequently now. And she's like, "I'm supposed to go to St. Pat's, but I'm really scared." It's like, don't be scared. Be scared of sitting at home with depression and doing nothing about it. Be scared of having anxiety building up and not sharing it. Be scared of those things, but don't be afraid of going to hospital. Like, whatever you think it is, I promise you, it's not that. I promise you're going to go in and meet friends. You're going to have people caring for you, genuinely, really caring for you. So it's the last thing in the world you should be afraid of.
And I think it was Dominic, again, from Young Offenders, said it. It was the time we did the Live Well podcast in the Opera House last June. I think it was Dom that said it, something like, if you had a broken leg, you wouldn't even hesitate. You'd go to hospital. So why not for this? There's such stigma around it, and lack of knowledge. So to speak to somebody who's been there and done that is really, it's enlightening.
Yeah, and that's the thing. The stigma is still there. You can still, with anxiety and depression, I think, those are the easier ones now to talk about. Not that it's very, very easy, but those are the easier ones. People who suffer from disassociation, really bad addiction problems, or psychosis, or, whatever, eating disorders, all these things, those are hard, and those still have a big stigma on them, or more so than anxiety and depression. So those are the hard ones to get to. And like Dom says, like, you should be able to say, "I can't come into work today. I'm hearing voices again. But I'll get back on track." And I would say that's never happened, and that's unfortunate. Whereas I can turn around in work now and say, "Look, I'm in a bad way. I'm going to go back to hospital. I'm going to go back to the doctor. I'm not going to be in tomorrow." And it won't even be questioned.
Brilliant.
And my employer handled it really well. But if I turned around and said something like that, or I don't know, I think it'd be okay where I work. But I think most people would be very, very worried about it. And it shouldn't be like that.
Yeah, absolutely. You talk about starting out as an actor in the book. We've talked about this as well, and you felt that there was such uncertainty as an actor. You went to the Gaiety before you even went into comedy. You went into the Gaiety and trained as an actor, and then came out and was faced with endless auditions.
What do I do now? Yeah.
Oh, yeah, and I know, because I've been there. It's just such God,
soul destroying. It's hard.
It's soul destroying, and the rejection and the no security in your finances and all of these things. Did that drive you into comedy in the end?
I think, it did. Yeah, it did. And the access that you had to comedy back then, which doesn't exist now. Like, there's so many people want to be stand-ups now. So many, thousands of people want to do stand-up now.
Why do you think it doesn't exist? Why? Why is it hard? Why is it harder now? Why doesn't it exist? The access.
Because genuinely, I realised that it was so hard. It was so hard to get an acting job. Like, so hard. But back then, I could walk into town on a Wednesday, walk up to the International Bar, say, "You couldn't give me 15 minutes," and they'd be delighted to have you, and they'd give you 25 quid, and you'd go to the pub. And I was like, "It's the easiest money I've ever made."
Yeah.
I went in with no money to town. I had a few points, and now I have someone. And acting had done nothing but cost me fortunes. I was working on chemical plants and shit to pay for classes.
Yeah.
Then you go to there was some nights you could go into the Haiti Bridge, and then you could go to the International and the Old Norseman. You might do 3 gigs, and you'd have like 60 quid or 70 pounds. You're like, what am I fucking acting for?
Yeah.
What am I acting for? I've worked for an hour. I've 70 pounds. everybody's hanging out. I was like, as much as I was never mad about it, it was like, this feels like something I can do.
Yeah.
So it definitely was why I went that way. And, and like, honestly, I always thought, I never wanted to even do stand up that much. I just wanted to feel like I was good at something. And I felt like I was good at acting, I really did, but I never felt I was getting anywhere. But with stand up, I felt like get somewhere and achieve something fast.
Yes.
And it was accessible then because there was only like 12 full-time stand-ups in the country. Genuine. There was Tommy, Dara, Jason, Joe Rooney, Ian Coppinger, Brendan, whose name, Brendan Dempsey. It was 12. That was it. So there was always gigs. You had so much stage time to get better. Joe Rooney and Patrick. So you could just gig and gig and gig and gig, and you got better and better and better. But now, somebody wants to do stand-up comedy. They walk into City Limits or whatever, and they say, "Can I have a 15-minute set?" And they say, "Yeah, come back in 6 months," and you get 5 minutes, and you don't get that.
Wow! Oh, I didn't realize it'd gone like that.
Yeah, that it really has.
Wow!
And then you wait another few months, and you've forgotten your last 5 minutes. So you're not really developing anything. You're just trying to do the same 5 minutes, not terrible again.
Because that's what I always say as an actor, you don't get to practice. Like as a comic, like you said, you get to practice. You get to work on your own material. You get to practice all the time. But as an actor, the only time you get proper practice is when you're actually on set.
Yeah, it's too late.
That's it. You can rehearse, but you can rehearse your way fine. But like you don't get the practice as an actor. You learn. I think you learn the most when you're on set. That's it. Like it's the only time when you're actually working. So it's a kind of it's like you said, it's a horse and a cart thing.
Genuinely, back then when we started stand up, I would look at the International and the Halfpenny and all those places. I used to see them as like going to the gym. Those were those where you practiced. They weren't real gigs in my head. That was where you practiced. You know, in front of 30, 40, 50 people, and you practice new shit. And so I went and you walk around, and then you'd go off and do the festivals, or you'd try and do bigger gigs or get supports for other lads, whatever. That was the gigs you were working for. But that's gone now. You have to wait 3 months to do an actual gig that used to be just seen as a practice gig. It's so much harder to get into. It's so much harder to get into. And then so that's like they all go online and they make sketches and they do TikTok and they do all that sort of stuff, which is amazing because I've never been able to survive in that shit. Like I can't even do an online audition. I can't do any of that shit. So and they get slated for it. Oh, they're not real comedians. They didn't come through the trenches. They can't get into the trenches, you prick. Leave them alone. Like they found an avenue. Young stand-ups or young comedians just do things a different way. Doesn't mean they're less funny. In fact, they have to work an awful lot harder now. We could get away with doing the same set for years.
That's true.
One sketch, it goes on TikTok, it goes viral. A week later, it's dead.
Yeah,
you gotta do another one.
Yeah,
you gotta do another one. So they're constantly developing. So.
And they've got these writing skills because they would have to script something to do sketches properly. You know what I mean? Like it's more of a scripted skill rather than kind of off the cuff stuff.
Yeah, and you got to learn to edit, and you got to learn to make a room look good with a phone camera, and you got to learn all these things and collaborate and
and market yourself.
Yeah, exactly. And market yourself. I used to write stuff on the back of my hand and then try it in the International and go, if it worked, I just kept writing it on my hand. That was the job. Like, I just wrote the same thing the next time. And if it didn't work, I just tried to forget that it ever happened.
It's a very analog approach.
That's very analog.
What don't you like about stand-up or comedy? What don't you like?
I never really was into it, it's hard to know what I don't like. It's just I never really was able to come to terms with being on stage, the nerves of being out there on my own. I never really took that well. I was never able to sort of take a step back and say that me doing a bad gig might, even though it never happened, I always judged myself completely off the gate. So if I had a good gig, I felt like I got away with it for 24 hours. And then always thought it was going to be found out. Always thought that if I had a bad gig, it meant it was a bad person. No, I never really got past that. So I'm still not past it. So I'll just try and never do it anymore. I haven't done it in a few years. And honestly, the only motivation I had for doing it was not because I love stand-up or love comedy. I I never went to stand-up shows. I didn't care whether it was stand-up show. I only did it because I wanted to feel good at something.
Yeah.
That was it. I wasn't good at anything else. I tried to play football. Ball hit me in the face every time. I tried to, play music. I wasn't good enough. I tried to race motorbikes. I was handy and pretty good for an Ireland context, but never going to be professional. I was failing at everything I loved. So here was this thing I didn't really care that much about, but I could do it and do it well. I knew I could do it really, really well. So that's the only reason I kept coming back at it. It was just validation. Just wanted to feel. I knew I could tell a story.
Yeah.
I just knew I could tell a story. Like, it's one thing I know I could do well and always have done well and will always be able to do well. And that's the only reason. It's the only reason I ever did it.
That's a great skill set itself. And when you translate that into acting, that's what you do as an actor as well. And I laughed. You had a line in the book where you said that comedy gave you money and travel and opportunities, and all acting ever gave you was like a bigger belt. Because
it's made me fat. It's made me free food.
Because I think we met each other most probably at the cake stall in the afternoons on set.
Yeah, big time, yeah. I'm not knocking the cake stall. I love the cake
either
stall.
way.
The cake stall has never flown me to tour around China or, comedy did bring me and show me the world, and it bought me my house and my motorbikes, and, acting's never done any of that for me. Acting's been more a passion project than anything else.
It has. And speaking of which, obviously, the Young Offenders has been a big part of that, of your acting life as well. Well, what did you think when Peter and I first approached you back when it was the film? I mean, we were doing the film at that point, which was 2017. I was pregnant with Jake. What did you think when we approached you? And I
just remember Peter ringing me and saying that he was doing a movie and he really played it down. He really played it down. Like doing that he was doing this thing and it's all happening. It's mostly finished. I remember him saying it's mostly finished, but they've just struggled, with this one character, and you come in and would I have a chat to him? I didn't even realize it was like an audition. I thought it was a chat, and met him somewhere in Dublin 8 in a weird warehouse, whatever it was. And he was saying, here's the movie and tell me what it's about. It sounded great. It sounded like whatever. And then he showed me the trailer. The trailer was effectively done except for the character who was on the play. And when you watch something I remember watching the first few sketches of Naked Camera and just feeling, oh my God, there's something in this. There's something, they've captured something here. There's just a magic in it. It's it's so rare those things come along. But you spend so much time as a comedian or an actor saying, oh yeah, maybe we can make it work. Or trying to do this, or trying to figure a way. And every so often you look at something and go, oh, I have to be a part of it. I just have to. This is it. This is brilliant. It just felt so good straight away. Everything from the two lads to the music to the way it was put together to how it looked visually. I loved that it wasn't another working class Dublin show, that it was something that was, somewhere else in the country. I loved it. I just wanted to be, I went from just having a chat to sort of really desperately feeling like, how the fuck am I definitely going to make myself part of this? Peter could have asked me to stand on my head and eat an apple that day and I would have done it. I would have done anything to try and be a part of it. I was chatting to him and he was telling me about the character and how it was going to work and trying to do it in front of him. And just as before I left, he goes, oh, look, come here. Don't worry about it. You have the part. I was like, holy shit. I was walking on air. Walking on, at that point, there was no money discussed or anything. It felt like it was just something to do. It was just something to do. It just felt like this brilliant thing to be a part of. There was no one talking about cash, no one talking about anything. It was just right, we're just doing this. And came down to Cork, and I loved it even more because straight down to Cork, the caterer was the woman that that cut my hair.
So great, I remember being
there. It's hilarious, but it just felt so good, so fast. You kind of just know with some things. Naked Camera, I just knew there's a moment in time, something is captured, or something that just is fleeting, but it's there, and you can never really put your finger on what it is. And I got it in Naked Camera. And then I got a feel when I saw the trailer for this. And then when the series came out, I thought, well, I'm a fucking goner. I'm definitely not going to be in that. Because, if ever there was a one-trick pony character, it's the character I played in the movie. He robs a load of shit. He gets arrested and he goes to jail. That's the end of him. So when there was another character to come back and it was to offer, and it was completely different. I couldn't believe it. You know, we're so happy to still be a part of Aldi. I'm still so happy to be to be a part of Aldi.
It was so great, but it was a no-brainer. I remember we were going through it and it was like, how, it wasn't even a case of, oh God, we can't bring PJ back. It was literally from the get-go, how are we going to get him back? How are we going to, in what capacity is going to come back in? Because that character of Ray isn't going to come back. But, and then it was like, is it weird, to recast him? Is it very home and away to have somebody else slot in, and it was like, no, this is a different thing from the movie. The movie was one thing. This is a BBC series. It's a different thing. Even the time frame to when it was set is different because the movie was set in the 90s type, or thereabouts, kind of early 2000s. So it was like, no, this is what we do. And this is how you create it and bring your people back in. So we were just delighted.
Mobile phones and stuff.
Yeah.
I like that. Nobody questioned it. I do remember Peter saying, listen, nobody gives a shit.
Yeah.
Different time zone.
So true.
Nobody gives a shit. People just want to see it. They want to enjoy it.
And that's it. As long as it's good, nobody gives a shit. You know what I mean? This is like no questions asked, really. Yeah. You mentioned
it's been such a key, pivotal sort of part of my career. It's really marked the last 10 years. Really, really has. It's really gas because people do, up until there's an age group of people like sort of 50 and under who will see me and go, naked camera, Jake Stevens, blah, blah, and then it hits sort of 30 down, and those people are all, you're not young offenders,
Yeah.
And that's what's really nice about that.
Totally. Well, I mean, I suppose it just shows that there's longevity in the career as well, that you can appeal to all, ages and different ranges, because there's others who'll know you just simply from your stand-up, which is before that again, And you mentioned Naked Camera. What a show. I mean, what a show. Like, I've done Naked Camera. Like, The Fear, we did The Fear, which came after you. And remember, we had meetings with you. That's how we actually, I think, got to know you as well. About, like, how do we effectively do a hidden camera show? And you were so kind. You came on and you gave us loads of advice and, helped us with sketches and layout and stuff. But it was always, and it was funny because every time we were out in the streets pranking people, everybody thought that The Fear was hidden camera. The Fear never existed in the public domain. It was just it was just Naked Camera the whole way, But it was such a great show. Do you think a show like that could be made nowadays?
I really don't. I don't think so. It was a more innocent sort of, like, nobody suspected cameras then. Nobody had phone cameras. Didn't exist. They just didn't exist. So when you were a weird person to someone, even the CCTV that did exist was on Crime Line and people were completely unidentifiable,
Yeah.
So people were their guard wasn't up the same way. Now something strange happens, they think immediately it's some TikToker or it's someone on Instagram or something stupid done or someone's trying to make me look like an idiot. That just didn't happen. People just did not think they were being filmed. People acted in a totally different way. And we saw that in the last season. Like, that was the last season we made, was the first time we saw people starting with Nokia phone cameras to take pictures. And that was the beginning of the shift. It was the beginning of the change. And the world is totally different now. So I really don't think you could make it in the same way. I mean, you can always do hidden camera stuff, but it is starting to feel old hat, or people just do it now. They want to make a dick out of someone. Like, our rule was always, as long as I'm the idiot,
yes,
it's okay. So we always thought it's a sketch show. The straight man just doesn't know he's in it, and that was always the way we approached it. So the straight man never looks like a fool in the sketch, So that was always the way we tried to approach it. And if anybody did look like a fool, honestly, it was only left in because they begged us to leave it in.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, no, I remember that. Like,
they just didn't give a shit.
Yeah, doing the consent forms at the end, and people would be like, "Oh my God, definitely!" You're like, "Are you sure?" We're like, "Yeah, definitely." Yeah. Others would just be like, "Oh," I remember there was one guy, and he was like, "You can't put me in." I said, "Okay, no problem." And he's just like, "I'm supposed to be at work." So there's people like that were off doing things they shouldn't do, and then got caught.
Yeah, there was always that, like, you do a wind up in the bookies and they were all like, nobody knows I'm here. I can't be doing that. They had their county council jackets on in the bookies at 3:00 on a Thursday. Like, okay. We're just so unfortunate because normally they were great.
Yeah, exactly. They were the best ones as well. You're like, I had 2 killer ones today now. But obviously, they had other plans for that material, so that was fair enough. We're coming to the end, PJ. Unfortunately, we're coming to the end of our
I
chat.
just realised my battery's dead. I thought it was fully charged. I'm so sorry. I'm 10% left. I'm good.
Oh, you're grand. Well, that's serendipitous then, because we are coming towards the end. So, one final question I want to ask before I get to. I always do a live well kind of pop quiz, or a quick fire round rather. But one question I want to ask: what advice? I mean, you talked a bit about the stand-ups now that are out there. What advice would you give a stand-up or performer nowadays?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I used like if you can't make them laugh, make them think used to be the way.
Oh, nice.
But I genuinely think it's gone the other way now. I think there's a lot of very interesting comedians now. And people are afraid to just be funny for the literal sake of just being funny. It doesn't have to always have a mission or a point or a journey or, you can do all that in a big set, but you still can't be afraid. Just be funny for the sake of being funny and be vulnerable and don't try and please your audience all the time. Just genuinely just find out at the core of a room. Every room is different, and at the core of every room, there's a feeling that people just want to wrap their arms around. It doesn't have to be political, or it doesn't have to be anything. Like there's something that's brought. It's every time you do a gig, that's the only time that group of people will ever be together as a unit. Ever, it'll never happen again. It's a special thing, And you don't have to pre-plan an agenda for that all the time. So don't be afraid to be funny for the sake of being funny, I guess, is the only thing I would give advice.
I think when it came to comedy performing for me, like I never really did stand up. It wasn't my thing at all. But like as a comedy actor, I always felt if it makes me laugh, that was my standard, was like I don't know what it's going to make anybody else laugh. I genuinely, I don't know if it's going to make you laugh or that person laugh or that. I don't know. So I have to just stick to it. I'll do it if it makes me laugh. That's what I always stick to.
And don't be afraid of the silence either,
Yeah. Nice.
The silence isn't that. It's not that big a deal. Like genuinely, I remember Kevin Gildee gave me the best advice ever. He says, you know where comedians go when they die? And I was like, no. And he goes, the dressing room. That's it. You go in the dressing room and you have a drink and then you go home.
And that's it.
It's not that big a deal. Like, watch this.
Awesome. On that note, this is the live well quick fire round. Okay, PJ Gallagher, do you believe in magic?
Yeah. I don't like emotional magic. Yeah, not really.
Not really. Okay, good. Who is your favorite stand-up and why?
Richard Pryor, always, because he's the only one whose set was filmed 35 years ago and it still looks like it could have been recorded yesterday morning.
Amazing.
Just fresh.
Yeah.
Everyone copied him.
He was amazing.
Everyone copied him, yeah.
Yeah, smart man. What do you stand for, PJ?
Oh my God, what do I stand for? Nowadays, honestly, it's just about being open and just like, throw away your secrets and be who you are. I guess that's kind of it at the moment. That's my current mission. Who knows if I go regressive on that, start hiding everything all again in the future. I might have reason to. For the moment, it's about be open, be yourself, be who you are. Don't be afraid.
Beautiful. If you were to distill yourself down to an essence, what would your essence be?
Oh my God, ammonia probably. I mean, essence. Like you mean? How do you mean? I mean, what do you mean by an essence?
Anything. I always refer to back to Orla when we did the show together, all of us on stage, and I asked Orla that question, and it was the best answer I ever got. She said cheese.
Cheese.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna be a bit more ethereal than cheese and say survivor.
Beautiful. I love it. I love it. Love it. Love it. That is great. Okay, here's one. I know the answer to this. I think. What's the wildest thing you've ever done?
How do you know the answer to this?
Because you answered it before to me.
Oh, did I?
Yeah.
What did I say?
You said the wildest thing you've ever done was actually have a partnership and have kids, have a family.
Oh yeah, no, undoubtedly, yeah. It's the most unexpected and wild thing I've ever done. No doubt about it. Having kids at 48 is the wildest thing I've ever done. No, haven't done it yet. Having teenagers in my 60s is the wildest thing I've ever done.
Oh yeah,
it's the worst thing I'm ever going to do.
Do you know what? You'd be so chilled at that point. You'd be so fucking chilled.
Oh Jesus! Oh my God! They get their first legal point 6 months after I get my bus pass. So who knows how I'm going to deal with that?
You can go into town and have a pint. What's the one thing you do every single day that helps you live wild and free? Because it is the Live Wild podcast. I got it.
Ride my motorbike. Honestly, I ride that motorbike every single day, and that is living high speed mind. What do they call it? Mindfulness. It's high speed mindfulness, and it really is. It's the one time every single day I'm completely at peace with myself, where I just think about where I'm going and where I've just been and nothing else. Literally stuck in the moment. Every single day makes me feel good. Every day.
Awesome. PJ, thank you for being on the Live Well podcast. It has been such a pleasure. And I just, I've known you the last couple of years, but every time I chat to you in situations like this, I feel like I get to know another little slice. So thank you so much.
No, thanks for having me, Hilary. You're always so good to me. Probably unnecessarily so, but thanks so much. You're amazing. Thanks a million for having me.
Thanks, Pat. Pleasure. Thank you for being here. We hope you enjoyed listening as much as we enjoyed making these episodes. Thank you, as always, to our amazing guests. A special thank you to Aoife McNamara, my co-producer extraordinaire from Imagine Media. Please like, share, subscribe, and rate us. It all really helps. And remember, this content is for education and entertainment purposes. In short, it's not gospel. I always say, take what resonates with you and leave the rest. Always question everything and do your own research.